More than 80% of the luxury bags in the world are made in China. But those luxury brands just won't acknowledge that. They take almost finished bags from China factories back to their own factories and just do the repackaging and logo installing.
Your Chanel cosmetics, 80% are made in China and cost only $5. They just add the logo in France and charge you 10 to 40 times the price. Close your eyes. If your Chanel cosmetics says made in China, will it feel cheaper? It's not about quality, it's about brand washing.
Things are getting real messy behind the scenes at Hermès. The luxury giant is officially suing a group of Chinese manufacturers after they allegedly leaked confidential information about how Hermès really operates. And what came out has people questioning whether Hermès has been selling more than just handbags. Some are calling it a full-blown fraud, and it's starting to look like the Hermès brand image might not be as flawless as they want us to believe. Y'all, Hermès is spiraling right now, like full-on damage control mode. They just slapped lawsuits on the same Chinese manufacturers who went and exposed their billion-dollar dirty laundry. And you can bet your bottom dollar that the fashion world is shook. See, these factories weren't just out here making cheap knockoffs. These were the same folks actually crafting the real deal. The Birkins, the Kellys, you know, the ones folks dropped $20,000 on like it's nothing. And now they're pulling the curtain all the way back on what's really going down behind those fancy made in France tags. Spoiler alert, it's not the fairy tale Hermès has been selling us. We're talking shady shortcuts, leaked receipts, viral TikToks exposing everything. The whole luxury fantasy is falling apart fast. And Hermes is out here scrambling, trying to plug the holes. But honestly, it's too late. The truth is already out there and the damage is done. Now it all starts with the big lie Hermès has been feeding us for years. They've built their whole brand on the idea of these perfect handcrafted bags made by elite French artisans in some dreamy little Parisian workshop. You know the image. Some old school artisan in a crisp white coat, slow stitching leather under a dim light while French jazz plays softly in the background. Yeah, well, not really. And here's where it gets even messier. Insiders and receipts are saying that up to 80% of these so-called French luxury bags are actually being manufactured in China. And when we say manufactured, we mean everything. The leatherwork, the stitching, the cutting, all done overseas. Then Hermès swoops in, adds a button, maybe stamps a logo on it in France, and boom, suddenly it's made in France. That's the little magic trick they've been pulling. So when the Chinese factories started telling the truth and dropping receipts, Hermès absolutely lost their minds. Now, Hermès tried to clap back. They threw out a video showing workers in a French factory trying to act like, see, we really make our bags here. But honestly, it was giving desperate. And this is where people like Leatherstein come into play. He's not just some random dude on the internet. He's a leather expert with a whole cult following because he does what nobody else dares to do. He buys these designer bags, slices them open on camera, and exposes what's really inside. He's already put brands like Chanel, Louis Vuitton, and Bottega Veneta on blast. Tanner showed that the leather quality in these luxury bags is no better than what you'd find in a $100 dupe. Oh, and that $14,000 Birkin bag, well, it actually costs around $600 to make, and that's with high-quality leather and metal hardware. He spent over $100,000 of his own money just cutting open bags and analyzing every stitch, every layer, because he needed to understand why they were so expensive. And the answer, they're not. So just imagine Hermès sitting there watching all this unfold, realizing the house of cards is crumbling. Chinese manufacturers weren't just making fakes, they were making the real thing for Hermès. And now they're the ones blowing the whistle. They exposed that 80% of the bag is made in China, and all Hermès does is slap on a few finishing touches back in France to sell you the illusion of French luxury. And how does Hermès handle getting caught? Do they apologize? Own up to it? Of course not. They went straight to filing lawsuits. Now they're suing these Chinese factories for misusing intellectual property and defamation, basically saying, how dare you tell the truth about us? But here's the real kicker. Those same Chinese factories weren't even operating illegally. They were under official contracts with Hermès and other luxury brands. They were legally making the bags. But now that they've spoken out, Hermès is acting brand new, like they've never even heard of them. But let's see what the books say. Hermès made $15.2 billion in revenue in 2024. That's millions of bags flying off the shelves. But if it really takes 2 whole days to handcraft one Birkin bag, bag. Where are all these extra bags coming from? Because the math is not working, and Hermès isn't the only one pulling tricks. Prada, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, they're all playing the same game. They'll make 98% of a bag in China, stitch a button or a zipper in Italy, and suddenly it's made in Italy. It's one big marketing stunt, and for years we ate it up because we thought European labels meant luxury. Turns out it just meant better PR behind the curtain. Factories like Satan Handbag in Guangdong, China are doing the real heavy lifting. This one factory alone has been cranking out high-end bags for over 50 years, and they reportedly produce about 80% of the world's luxury handbags. 80%. Think about that. It's not rare if everybody's got one. And now that more people are catching on, luxury resale values are starting to tank. Buyers are waking up to the fact that they've been dropping $25,000 on the same assembly line bags that 400 dupes are made next to. It gets worse. Some creators have exposed bags advertised as premium calfskin that are actually made with cheap PU-coated leather, basically plastic wrapped to look fancy. So now collectors are panicking, and first-time buyers are feeling played. Because if it's not about craftsmanship, then what exactly are you paying for? A logo? A fantasy? The sad part is, the old stereotype that made in China automatically means low quality was always a lie. China is producing some of the best leather goods in the world right now. They have the tech, the skills, and the materials. Honestly, some of these so-called dupes are better made than the originals. In fact, insiders have talked about factory extras, bags made in the same factories using the same materials, without the luxury tag stitched on. One creator even bought Ugg boots from the original factory for $5. The only thing missing was the little Ugg logo. And speaking of Uggs, those boots that everybody in the early 2000s swore were straight out of Australia, yeah, most of them were mass-produced in China. Americans just didn't know because branding was doing what branding does, lying to your face. Western media pushed this whole Europe equals luxury, China equals cheap narrative for decades. But when you peel it back, it's all the same, just different price tags. Brands aren't selling craftsmanship, they're selling an illusion, an overpriced, PR-powered fantasy. And honestly, celebrities played a huge part in keeping the scam alive. Cardi B, Kylie Jenner, all these A-listers flaunting $60,000 Birkins, you really think they're paying full price out of pocket? Number brands are sliding those bags into their hands for free to create hype. Cardi posts a Birkin flex, and suddenly everyone thinks dropping 6 figures on a purse is a personality trait. Meanwhile, TikTok influencers and Instagram baddies are flooding our feeds with luxury hauls and unboxings, half of which are PR gifts or brand sponsorships. They didn't even buy the bags they're flexing. But the message is clear. If you want to look rich, you need this bag, period. In the end, people aren't really buying craftsmanship anymore. They're buying clout, and brands know it. Meanwhile, the brands are laughing all the way to the bank, selling $600 bags for $26,000 because you saw it pop up somewhere online. But let's really get into this whole Birkin trap. Somewhere along the way, owning a Birkin became the ultimate status symbol. But here's the kicker. Hermès doesn't just let anybody buy one. You can't just walk in and grab a Birkin off the shelf. You have to build a purchase history, meaning you have to spend thousands on scarves, belts, and other products before they even offer you the chance to buy a bag. That's not luxury. That's luxury cult behavior. And people are lining up to join. You walk into Hermès and say, I want to buy a Birkin. And what do they tell you? Number first, you have to prove you're a loyal customer. You have to show you love the brand. Oh, and even then, you can only buy one per year. Let's not forget about the resale market. A few years ago, people were flipping Birkins like real estate. But now, after Tanner's expose and the factory leaks, prices are dipping fast. And here's the problem. If the exclusivity is fake, the craftsmanship is questionable, and the bags are being made in the same factories as dupes, why would anybody still pay full price? The resellers are sweating. The investors are panicking. Luxury bags aren't the gold mine they once were. And it gets even messier. A lot of celebs and influencers, they're rocking dupes and still tagging the real brands. Why? To stay on trend without blowing their budgets. Some insiders even claim stylists will buy fakes, post them like they're real, and score invites to Fashion Week based off the illusion. The system rewards the illusion, not the authenticity. Kendall Jenner was even caught caught with a fake Louis Vuitton fanny pack and allegedly didn't even know it. So when you see your favorite celeb flexing luxury brands, don't assume it's real. Honestly, a lot of the time, they don't even care if it is. It's the branding that sells, not the actual product. Someone even admitted half the jewelry they wore was fake, bought for less than $30 on Amazon. And you know what? They're still winning. The brands are cashing out. Celebs are collecting checks. Influencers are getting their PR boxes and invites. You know who's not winning? You, the customer. You're dropping a month's rent on a label that might have been sewn together right next to your Amazon packages. So you gotta ask yourself, are you paying for quality or just chasing an illusion? And now, Hermès isn't just panicking behind the scenes. They're allegedly going full legal warfare. Reports say they're suing a wave of Chinese manufacturers who expose them. And it's not just one or two lawsuits either. Multiple factories are getting hit with claims like defamation and misuse of intellectual property. But let's be real, what Hermès is really mad about is getting caught. And the timing couldn't be worse. With the US cracking down on Chinese imports, global brands have been forced to show their hand. And guess what? Hermès might be getting hit the hardest, because when your so-called French craftsmanship is actually coming from Shenzhen factories, you've got a real problem. This whole expose cracked open something bigger. Luxury brands aren't about quality anymore. They're about perception. And when that illusion starts to break, so does the empire. Hermès isn't just trying to save face. They're fighting for survival. If more people find out where these bags are really made, the whole industry gets questioned. Not just Hermès, Louis Vuitton, Prada, Chanel, all of them. The second made in France loses its sparkle. The whole luxury fantasy falls apart. Right now, Hermès is pointing fingers, filing lawsuits, and trying to silence the factories that expose them. But it might be too late. The genie's out of the bottle, and the internet keeps the receipts. So now that you know the truth, ask yourself, are you still going to pay $20,000 for a bag made in the same building your Amazon order came from? Let's talk about it. Should celebs be held accountable for pushing overpriced products? And are luxury brands even worth it anymore?